You're listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.
All right, we'll get started now. What's going on, Ryan Murphy?
Not much, brother.
Dude, I'm super excited to have you here.
Amen, man. This is great.
Super excited.
This is great.
I was a little nervous because you got a personality that's through the roof. So I knew I was going to have to bring my A game. So speaking of A game, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So you hit a certain age where you're going to get hemorrhoids, right? And so you get them from all kinds of ways. And we talked about that earlier. The thing that I think you're going to have to look forward to is the Preparation H bullet. You know what that is? That
sounds great. I have no idea. I've heard of like Preparation H, but I've never heard of the Preparation H bullet.
It helps to keep the swelling down. Now the bullet is like your top of the line medication for that kind of thing.
Okay.
It goes in the refrigerator. It's in the shape of a bullet, and it's like made out of like really thick butter.
Okay.
Right. So the problem with the bullet though is it goes into your booty hole.
So right up the ass.
Right up the ass. The issue that most people have a hard time with is how far you've got to get that preparation H bullet.
Oof.
So you literally got to go. This is going to get a little uncomfortable, but
hey, look, that's where I want to spend most of our time.
In the uncomfortable zone. So you literally got to go 2 knuckles deep, man.
Oof.
You go 1 knuckle, that's some bitch coming back out.
Fuck, 2 knuckles deep.
2 knuckles deep, and when your body accepts it, you know, man. You know when your body has accepted it.
Damn.
But So
how would you? What type of going back in time preparation practice could I be doing? Like 2 knuckles in the shower?
I think if you start with a knuckle with some conditioner.
Okay.
That's because you're gonna have to lube it. You're not gonna
want to slip it in.
You don't want to go dry, man. You don't want to go dry.
I hear you.
You've got to put something on there, or that some bitch ain't going. And so you're also
there's some sick part of my brain that's like, I want to try to see if I can get it without it.
I've got a few. We can do it when we're done. And you have to be. There's also time constraint, right? Because your body's warm, right? So what happens when butter gets warm?
Melts.
So that's the same thing happens.
So it's 2 knuckles with pace.
2 knuckles with pace. So you got to get it in there quick, or that it's gonna melt, and you got butter grease in your butt crack.
All right. Now what happens if you aggressively, like, let's say I just want to set my target to like 3 knuckles, and what if is there a downside? Could the bullet melt if you go? Could you go too deep?
No, I think if you went 3 knuckles, you're probably gonna end up with another hemorrhoid. So I would stick with 2.
Well, hey man, thanks again for first of all, thanks for having us. It's always good to see you and Nina.
Absolutely, man.
And it's been too long, man.
I agree.
It's been too long.
It's been a long time.
But this is sweet. You got the good setup going here. I know I was going to say that. I don't know why you're nervous for me, but I don't know. I kind of like, I've never done the setup before with the headphones on. This is cool.
Dude, I go all out.
I can appreciate that.
We haven't cleaned our house in like 8 years, so we've been hitting it real hard for 2 days.
Yeah?
So in anticipation of you being here.
So when it's time to clean the house, where's your go-to? Where do you spend most of your time?
Most of my time is on that blue chair watching TV, getting yelled at. So, but no, I did a few things.
I see him peering over my shoulder looking at his wife.
Yeah, she's getting real ugly, man. But good thing she's eating something, so that's keeping her quiet. Let me ask you this. We talked a little bit earlier also about some anxiety stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you're an anxiety guy.
Oh, dude.
When did you realize that you had anxiety?
Man, that's a great question. Yeah, so I think the first time that I really realized I had anxiety was I want to say it was my sophomore year when I transferred to Trinity.
Okay, so you were in college?
I was in college. So I'm from Boston originally, the Boston area, Weymouth. And I always wanted to play pro baseball since I was a little kid.
Just so people know, you are from Boston and you have super dreamy Boston eyes too.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate that.
I'm having a real difficult time.
All right, well now I'm just going to have to lock eyes with you the rest of the podcast.
If I look away a lot, that's why.
These girls are gonna probably put a stop to this.
I'm sure they will. We gotta hurry before they finish eating.
Oh shit. So yeah. Anyway, I was just I wanted to play pro baseball since I was a little kid. I was, growing up, my brother and I would watch the Red Sox all the time with my dad, and he knew everything about the Red Sox. Listened to talk radio all day long.
That was his team.
Yeah, that was his team. I mean, he was big into all the sports, but the Red Sox were really like his thing. And so, between that and like going to Fenway Park, which have you ever been to Fenway Park?
No, I've just seen it on TV and pictures.
We got to go to Fenway Park.
It looks bananas.
It's like the Red Sox Yankees is an electricity in the air is really rare.
That's
like
cool.
You can get off the train at Kenmore and walk up the steps on a game day, and it doesn't fucking like it could be shitty weather, great weather, like the Red Sox in contention, the Yankees not, like there's just such a deep-seated and real hatred for the other side.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, dude, it's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
And so anyway, so I moved down here, going back to the story, and if I get too sidetracked, just like really
No.
So I wanted to play pro baseball, but I didn't really ever think about what did that mean. Like I just was like playing baseball and trying to get on the best teams locally, and then trying to do well in each game within those teams, and but realized like basically shit, dude, time's running out here. Like I'm almost 19 years old, and like if I really want to do this thing, this dream, like I gotta really investigate what does it look like, because I'm obviously not at the level that I'm not on track. Like I'm off track. Seems like I've stayed off track.
Yeah.
And I knew that like velocity, which is how they measure throwing power in baseball, I knew that was something that was a real weakness for me. Like a lot of people told me, coaches would be like, "Hey, I heard that you'll run through a brick wall for anybody," like because I really prided myself on being a great teammate and working hard and all those things, but that you basically can't break a pane of glass with your fastball is what this one guy,
oh really,
Mike DeFelice said. Yeah, and like, dude, it just pissed me off because it was like.
And you were 19 at the time?
I was 19, yeah. And so but at the same time, I'm 31 now, so this is 12 years ago. Like 12 years ago, the reality was, the thinking was from everybody, from all the coaches I had to my dad to even like, most Google searches where you'd find these pitching gurus to try to learn from. I was searching for answers, and all anybody would tell me is like, "Hey, sorry, pal, like, slap me on the left arm and say, God just gave you a shitty arm."
Yeah.
Like it. And you either have it or you don't. Like,
so let me ask you this real quick. I mean, not to get sidetracked, because I might get sidetracked too. But at 19, you had your throwing arm, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I don't want to be negative or anything.
But, no, dude. Be honest. Just
no.
Let it fly.
I'm just saying for other people, not necessarily us. But a lot of times people are like, "Well, hey, follow your dreams, do this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it sounds like they had already put you in the box that says, "Hey, this kid is not going to go much further than what he is." And
a great way to say it.
Is that something that somebody can develop in time, or at 19? I mean, you're probably at the peak of your physical ability for the most part, without doing a whole lot of, spending a lot of money on special training and fitness and eating and stuff like that. At 19, most kids can't afford that anyway.
True.
So it's like, are you basically, if you don't have it at that point, is it something you're just not going to develop?
Yeah, I mean, so dude, it's a great question. And honestly, like, yeah, but I'll take it back to this. I'll take it back to, it's your mindset. Like, it really is your mindset. At the end of the day, there's got to be something different about the way that you think. I was raised in around people who, largely in my environment, not with any malicious intent. They were just trying to be helpful, but they just saw what they saw. And yeah, at 19, to answer your question, I thought that I was in peak shape. I thought that I was in all these things, and I also thought that I was just stuck with that. Like, honestly, logically, I thought I'm just stuck with that. But call it God or call it whatever you want. But the way that I ended up coming down to Texas was because I pumped gas. That was one of my jobs, right? Like when I was 16, I started pumping gas at this little gas station up the road. And this little old lady would drive her smelly ass old Volvo in every week. And like, you know, the bell would go off, ding, ding. And like, I go to them, I'm like, oh, I'm a little pumped. I'm like, oh, it's Mrs. Scannell. Like, God, this lady can't even drive her car. She can't even get her fucking car close enough to the pump for me to get the side to get in her smelly car, move it.
This is up in Boston?
Yeah, up in Boston. And so long story short is like one day her son comes in with her and he's visiting and he happens to be the head coach at Trinity University for baseball. Wow. And so I was playing that night and at the local Legion field. And so he ended up bringing his kids to the field more just to show them like where he played. Mm-hmm. And it ended up that I was pitching that night against a good guy and a good team. And, you know, we won and we did well and I did well. Yeah. And so he came up to me after the game and was waiting for me. He ended up knowing my head coach. So they were like shooting the shit. And he's like, hey man, he's like, how, you know, that was impressive. And I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it. And he's like, you're a real competitive dude. He's like, but your arm sucks. And I'm like, there we go. Like, this is just my shit. Yeah. Like, hey, like pat on the back. Like, kind of like you seen the movie Rudy? Yeah, yeah. It's like when they're like, oh man, it's just if we could put like Rudiger's heart in that guy's body, right? But like I was not like a small guy per se like Rudy, but it was just like everybody, I was just slow and weak and not powerful and like that was just it. But anyway, this guy was like, the next thing he said, Tim Scannell was like, he's the head coach of Trinity, hilarious dude. He's like, but we got a guy down in Texas that teaches dudes like you how to throw 90. Oh, really? And that was like this electric charge through my body.
What were you throwing at the time?
Topping out at 78.
Oh, okay. That's a big difference.
Which is, yeah, to give you context, like I had to get to 90 just to even have a chance to get my foot in the door at the next level, at that pro level. And like that, it's like the bare minimum, right? So I was 12 miles an hour off the mark.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it?
No doubt. And to be honest with you, like I probably had been stagnant in terms of my velocity growth because you start to go to showcases and things at like around age 15. Now it's younger, but like for me, 15, 16, 17. At the showcases, it's like they're measuring things, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're measuring your fastball velocity, they're measuring your 60-yard dash, things like that. And then you do play a little bit, but my mindset and my family's mindset was like, the playing is what matters. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm throwing 76, 78. If my job as a pitcher is to go out and get 3 outs for my team, you know, in relatively short amount of pitches, and I accomplish that, that's more important than the other stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but, you know, and I'm ignorant to this, but it sounds like those showcases, it's a quick, and we kind of talked about boxes the other day, but it sounds like in those showcases, that's a quick way for them to put kids in a box, right? They say, okay, well, these guys can't throw past 85. Right. So you guys go stand over there. Everybody else throwing over 85. Let's go do more with you. You know, so it's almost like a double-edged sword because, you know, you get exposure, I'm sure, at these showcases. You get some reps. But at the same time, if you end up in that box, you know, you're you may not necessarily be fucked, but it sure feels like you are.
Well, I think, yeah, dude, I mean, you're absolutely right because it's like, so one of the outfits that's most popular, and I don't even know if they still are, but it's called Perfect Game. So they were the most trusted service that would put on the showcases around the country. And then what they would do with that data that you're talking about at a showcase is you would then get a Perfect Game player profile on their webpage. So what, if I'm a college recruiter or a professional scout, you know, Perfect Game's pitch was, hey, we're the most trusted brand. So you come to our showcases, you pay fucking ridiculous, like, I don't know, $500, $600. I'm sure it's more now for a 2-day showcase. And there's going to be scouts there and you'll start to build this profile. And so anyways, but you would get a rating on top of it. And so then like my rating at a Perfect Game showcase, I believe was like a 6. Right, and then you look at these other guys on your team. Like there's one kid I played with, Greg Anarumo, who everybody was always like, why is he batting third on our team? Like, why is he? But he was a big, strong kid, and he was a perfect game 9. Like, I'll never forget when his 9 came out. And then that's when I really started to look at it and be like, dude, something's wrong here, because like he's getting invited to go to showcases, you know, and they're paying for him. That's how you know if you're on the track, right? Like, I was the one paying the $500 or $600 so that they could invite Greg Anarumo for free. Like, that's the reality, right? Yeah. Like, because they want to have the best guys at their events, because then the scouts know there's better talent, blah blah blah.
It kind of makes them certifies them.
So exactly right. So anyway, long story short, that doesn't ever end up happening. Some of the stuff saying that, but essentially,
I love when you say long story short, because I know we're fixing to get some good stuff.
So it can put you in a box, but here's the thing that freed me. The thing that freed me was from the box was, first I had to accept that, like, and break away from my parents' mentality a little bit of, and again, I love them and I'm grateful for them, but their mentality was like, hey, let's not try to, when we ran into bad what we perceived as information that didn't show me in a positive light, it was like, well, fuck them. Yeah. Like, they don't get it. Like, it's not about the speed. My dad would always say to me, like, it's not about the speed, bud. Like, it's a thinking man's game, and, like, you know how to get guys out and change speeds. And it was just always more of like, the right person just hasn't found you yet. Like, you'll find somebody that believes in you, and like that will be enough to.
That's a parent's job, though. That's to an extent.
Yeah, no, I hear you. You're right.
But
I'm grateful for it.
When a lot of people are saying, hey man, you don't have the arm for it, and blah blah blah, and they're putting you in those under 80 mile per hour box. You know, you almost need somebody to encourage you the other direction. You know, otherwise it's real quick to say, fucking, I'm not doing anything. And I don't want to get into it right now, because we need to come back to. I would like to come back to the anxiety part, but eventually we'll get into what you're doing now, which this stuff that you're telling me now really makes sense to what you're doing now.
Amen. So actually, let's talk about this anxiety thing and tie it in, because so to your point, yes, I agree. Like, the parents, you know, in the coaching relationships that I have now, where I'm working with a high school guy, or, you know, even with a pro guy, it's like, my job is, in that context as their coach, as I see it, is to, first of all, build a relationship with them, because if they don't like you and trust you, nothing you say is going to make an impact or resonate. It's just true. That's a different amount of time for every single person, right? But then also telling their parents, like, hey, your job is to love them regardless of the result. Like, if they're walking into their game as a 16-year-old kid, which is, looking back, the way that I started to build this anxiety started to build for me, was I walked into these 16-year-old games, and I can feel this shit tightening up as I'm telling you this story, all here on my left side. It's like, my dad was awesome, right? Like, but he was also very much an emotional guy, in terms of, like, if I didn't perform well, and specifically, like, if I walked people, he was going to pack his shit up and leave. And I could always see it. And then it was like the most dejecting thing ever. Like, because then I would know, like, oh shit, like, now I'm throwing off the mood for the entire house for the entire night. Like, I'm the oldest brother. I got a younger brother and younger sister. Great. Like, I just fucked up everybody's Sunday. Like, on top of the fact that, like, walking people and being the guy on the mound, you're there standing there with the ball in your hand, and everybody basically in the park is like, Jesus fucking Christ, hurry up, dude. Like, everybody's like, throw a strike. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like you weren't trying to throw a strike.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that would be the fucking, like, and I always joke about it with guys, like, the guys now, because I'll tell them, like, and we can get into this later, but where the anxiety led for me was the yips. Like, I got to the point where I got to college at Trinity, and I was on this big, exciting adventure, and one day I went out to play catch, and I literally couldn't play catch anymore. Like, I was either, the ball felt stuck in my hand, I would either throw it straight into the ground or like 20 feet over a kid's head. Yeah. And so, but yeah, like, so I started to really then, like, your identity, for me, my identity was totally wrapped up in, like, protector role for my family. And I felt like I was letting everybody down, not beyond just my team, when I performed poorly. Yeah. And so it became this thing where, like, I hated baseball. Like, I hated it.
How old were you at that point?
I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like I started pushing back on my dad and really, like, looking at the game as something I would rather not do than do. probably by like age 13 or 14.
Oh, wow. That's young.
Yeah, and this is that's the first time that I've ever said that out loud, really. But I'm just like walking back through it. It's like probably 13 or 14, and then by 16, I mean, I really started to notice the separation in terms of the teams I was on. The physicality gap started to take over. The guys that lifted weights and were faster and I wasn't that guy. Then that's when it really started to peak for me in the anxiety, because like I was very consistent at what I did, but I also, I guess, instinctively knew that like that consistency had to always be there, because if I fucked up, like I didn't hit like 350 or 400 foot home runs. Like, so I had to be really consistent. So yeah, the anxiety started to be there. Like I'll never forget this one practice I went to. I was 16, and it was like a week before a tournament trip to Florida. And for whatever reason, I don't know, I guess I just mentally wasn't in it that day, but my dad drove me over to practice. We were taking ground balls, and like I was really good defensively at first base, which, I mean, that was just my thing. Like I had a really good glove. I could pick. I was just consistent. Like I saved outs from being a good defender. Mm-hmm. And that day, man, it was like fucking 5-hole city. Like shit was going through my legs. Like, and I just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was like instead
and it was
of
showing in your game.
Yeah, and I'm sure like my posture, my physiology, and everything was like saying like I don't give a like instead of, and so that's what fucking pissed my dad off, because he would be like, I got back in the car and I could feel his fucking energy from like 100 feet away.
You're representing the clan, man.
Well, I'm representing the clan, no doubt, and like his whole thing was like, yeah, he's like, you just fucking gave up your spot, like you just gave up your spot, and I remember thinking like, fuck it, I don't really care.
Yeah. Like
in a weird way, I maybe because I wanted to try to get back into having, I felt like our relationship became at a certain point like agent player. Mm. Like I felt like his love for me was contingent upon like me performing in a certain way, and I just like I wanted to try to get away from that. And then so once I really felt like, okay, I'm just in this, then it kind of just became this apathetic attitude. I think probably just to protect myself of like, because I couldn't emotionally put myself in the situation where I cared that much about it, or else it would have drove me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And so then as I got a little older, and when I broke off and went to Texas, like that summer beforehand was when my parents got split up. So it was a weird dichotomy for me that summer, because it was like I was playing in Legion, right? I was playing local Legion baseball as a 19-year-old college guy, which again, like that means you suck. Gotcha. Like you're not playing in like the Cape Cod League, like you're playing in the local league. But I had a bunch of other kids that I had played with growing up that also made it within that 19-year-old age cutoff. So it was cool because we had like 6 or 7 guys that I had played with a lot, and we were like, fuck, we're gonna be pretty good. Yeah. Like so we had a great summer, but that was when everything unraveled for my parents. Like and ultimately it ended up being me that told my mom like, hey, we gotta get dad out of here. Yeah. And because it was just not, now he was never physically abusive, it was never anything like that. Like he was a loving guy, but he just could not mentally stay consistent. And you know, it was alcohol, and it was, again, like not trying to put him on blast, but just the reality of the situation. It was just an unstable place to be. Yeah. And you never knew, like everything could be cruising along fine, and then something would just like set him off. Yeah. And so that year when that happened, when I went around in my circle, right, like my family, my friends. How many
siblings did you have?
I had 2. So I have 2. My brother Connor. Okay. So I'm 31. He's 29, and then my younger sister Cameron, who's 27. Okay. Yeah. So I'm the oldest of 3, and then so yeah, we ended up like walking. My brother and I walking around the block. Basically, like how it all went down was my mom was like, hey, basically the police are gonna come remove him from the house. Yeah. So I'm gonna need you to have your phone on you, and then you're gonna need to get your little brother, right? And you guys are gonna just grab the dog, take the dog out so the dog's not fucking barking like crazy, and I'll call you when it's done, and you'll walk back.
That's a lot of weight, man. That's a lot of weight for a kid to carry. And I mean, that's a lot for you to carry, but I'm sure your siblings were carrying some too. I mean, that's some heavy stuff. You know?
Yeah, dude. I mean, even talking about it now, it feels heavy. Yeah. Because, like, I knew it was the right thing to do, but it still felt like betrayal.
Sure.
And I also knew that I was putting myself in the crossfire
Yeah.
for what was next.
Yeah.
And my dad, fuck, man. And again, I'm grateful for it, but he could be a scary motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He just had to look at you a certain way, and you could tell, like, damn, this motherfucker could snap and do some damage, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so we ended up doing it. Like, it felt like forever, dude. Like, we lived in this neighborhood that was, it was nice. It was a nice, you know, probably middle-class town, but, like, the neighborhood we lived in was beautiful. You know, really, I had a blessed childhood. Like, we had kids out in the neighborhood we played with all the time. Like, we were always out playing whatever the fuck. Like,
That's
just
cool.
making shit up and then, like, trying to kill each other and then people pissed off going home and then coming back outside again at night to play, like, tag or whatever. You know, it was great. But, so everybody knows everybody. And it looks weird when my brother and I are walking around and walking around and walking around. So I'm calling my mom. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Like, you know, and I told Connor, you know, it was naive, I guess, but, like, I had told my brother, like, right when we walked out of the house, because he's like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, let's go. I was like, you're coming with me, we're walking the dog. He's like, we never fucking walk. What the fuck are you doing? I'm playing video games. I'm like, get up.
Yeah.
Let's go. And so he knew something was up. And so, like, I remember shouting downstairs to my dad right before we walked out. I was like, hey, we're going to take the dog for a walk. Like,
Your dad was probably like, what the fuck?
well, no, he was already, so, like, he had slipped into a bad place at that time.
Oh, I see.
Like, he was already fucked up that day.
Gotcha.
And so he was down in the basement, and he's just like, okay, like, whatever, you know. And that summer specifically was really had, like, really high highs and really low lows, because I think part of why I performed so well and played so well was because that was such an escape for me.
Yeah.
And I think that the other part was that I was back around all my buddies, so I felt safe in that environment, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then, you know, so because we did so well, I mean, my dad had a great time. And that part of me that's like, you're a son and you want to make your dad proud,
Yeah.
like, that lit me up. You know, it made me feel so accomplished when I performed well and I knew I was going to walk out of the game and he was going to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
You know, that was sweet. But then, like, the downsides of it were just like, I mean, as a kid that age, I just remember thinking, like, dude, if nobody else is gonna do this shit, like, I have to, because this is not, like, this is disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
And none of us are gonna move forward. This is not gonna get any better.
Yeah.
Right? So I just remember yelling down to him, and then we walked out. I told my brother, like, hey, this is what's happening. And he was just kind of like, oh, shit. All right. Like, he was on board with, he agreed, but it was also just kind of a shock to him because he was probably the closest with my dad.
Yeah.
And he was, you know, he's my best friend too. So, but anyways, finally they took him out, and then it just started getting to the point where, like, dude, I just had I would check my voicemail. I'd have like 10 voicemails from him. We went out, my brother and I went to go play golf that day. My mom was like, here, take some money, like, you know, go get your mind off it. And I remember listening to the first voicemail. It was like, from him, he's like, I know you did this shit.
Really?
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get you. And that was
Damn.
I know. And so, like, again,
That's again, that's a lot of weight for you to carry.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't you. I mean, in hindsight, and you know, I think when we make mistakes or we have shitty times in our lives, you know, it's your first reaction is, hey, it's not my fault, somebody else's.
Yeah.
You know, and to put that on a kid, that's pretty tough, man.
I appreciate it, man.
That's
yeah.
tough.
I think a lot of it was like too. I feel like I always instinctively wanted to put that type of stuff on myself. Like, I don't know if you're born with certain things or if your environment, the whole nature nurture thing, but
And you were the big brother.
yeah, the big brother, and so
Yeah.
I always felt like, you know, I always felt that responsibility to be protecting. But then then when that all went down, that was also the same time that I went back to my first school, St. Joe's, a little D3 school up in Maine, and played fall baseball. And the coaches had kept up with my summer, and so they really led me to believe that I was going to get an opportunity to pitch a lot there. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go visit Trinity, right? Because I'm still excited about this idea of gaining velocity, but I'm going to stay here at St. Joe's and see what happens. Well, I didn't pitch the entire fall. So I went down to Trinity, and I got on the plane in Maine, and it was like 13 degrees and snowing. And I landed in Texas, and it was 72 and sunny, and I fucking called my mom right away. I was like, yo, I'm if like Trinity doesn't work out, like this is it. Like, I just knew it. Like,
you know what's fucked up is growing up in South Texas, and I've made it a point to go as short a distance from home as I possibly can. We always go down here. We always say, man, I'd love some snow. I wish we'd have a snowy Christmas. I hate that, you don't really get seasons down here. You get spring, you get a really hot summer, you get another spring, you get 2 weeks of cold, you get spring, and then it's hot summer again.
Yeah.
And so we always kind of look up north and go, man, I want some of that. But I guess we don't really
Which
understand.
I get. I get that. Well, yeah, so I always tell people like this. It's like, it's so definitely around the holidays, like around Christmas, it's super fucking weird for me to be like seeing the ground.
Yeah.
Like,
that's funny.
Not that it never happens up there, but it's rare.
Yeah.
And then like the first college I went to, I had a certain relationship with the winter and snow, but then like Maine, the place in Maine was 2.5 hours drive north, which doesn't seem like that much, right? And they trapped me because when they showed me when I went on my tour, it was like the summer coming into the fall. And so they had this beautiful all natural grass field in the middle of the woods, and right down the path from the field was Lake Sebago. And dude, I'm talking like the foliage was kind of starting, and like this field, it felt like Field of Dreams type shit.
Yeah.
And we were the St. Joe's monks. Like our mascot was literally a monk, like with
That's
a brown
awesome.
robe on, and we literally had a monk in the dugout.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Father John, hilarious. So, but my freshman year was great. You played fall ball, and it was, dude, we'd go jump in the lake after practice. It was like dream shit.
Yeah.
The first time it snowed was Halloween my freshman year. I didn't fucking see the ground again until the middle of April.
Jeez.
And bro, I'm telling you, like, it was getting dark at 3:15 every day.
See, that's kind of my jam, man. I'm a homebody.
Okay, well, let me see if you still want to do it now. Here's going to be the part that I think you're going to be like, fuck that cold. So just to go eat shitty cafeteria food, you literally had to put on 2 pairs of pants, 2 jackets, a fucking face mask, and waddle across campus. And you're on this, like, they would clear the pathways every day and be salting it, but you have 6 feet of standing snow. It's like from above, it would look like one of those mazes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this shit's rock fucking solid.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so then, so that we could keep the snow on the field at a manageable level for when the thaw came, every fucking, it was 3 days a week from the first snow all the way through until the snow was gone. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, after we practice at 4:30 a.m., how do you go to sleep for that? I was like, I had never done that before. I'm like, how do you go to sleep for that, right? And so after practice, you'd have to go out with a buddy, and you'd meet the field. You'd have a wheelbarrow, and each one of you would have a shovel, and you'd be on the field shoveling, or I'm sorry, that would be later. The first part we had to do is spread black sand. So you'd have this little container of black sand, and you'd walk around the field and spread it all over the snow, all over the field. The sun would come up and heat up this black sand and melt the snow down a little bit. And so if you didn't have class between 10 and noon, you had to show up with a buddy with a wheelbarrow, and then you would take that slushy snow, dump it in the wheelbarrow, and dump it over the fence. So like literally by the time our opening day was there, it was like no people in the stands except just the drunk dudes that were willing to just shiver their asses off, right? And so, but yeah, I don't know. It just made you appreciate, like, the first time we got to Florida, you play all your spring games. All the northern teams come to play their first week of spring, usually during spring break in Florida, Arizona, warmer climate. But like, you're so grateful to get the fuck out of the gym, and for us, like, to not to shovel snow, it was like, I don't know, just give you this like boyish like excitement to be like, I don't give a fuck what happens today. Like, there's no snow. This field is beautiful. Like, this is fucking great. So yeah,
that's a big difference in down here. People always make fun of us because we wear shorts and jackets, but it's like it'll be 78 degrees by noon, and it'll be 38 by 7 o'clock at night. So you got to dress accordingly, shorts and jacket.
Yeah, you do, and it's crazy because your body adapts.
Yeah,
like my pitching coach at Trinity, that's a real good friend of mine and a mentor. Guy did everything for me, man. Dave Smith. And I've been working with him over at this place, DST San Antonio. So that's where we've been doing our pitching lessons out of.
Okay.
And just getting back around him has been great. But he's from Nebraska. And so we walked out the other night, from doing our thing, and I'm like, oh shit, it's cold, dude. And I was like, damn, wait, did that make me sound like a pussy? And he's like,
60.
no, he literally looked at me and like he's like justified already. He's like, no, it's just like a different 50. I'm like, I started laughing. I'm like, dude, we are like 18-year-old selves would be looking at us both like, because when I first got to Trinity, dude, my sophomore year, second semester, I mean, I'm a dick, right? Yeah. So like I would literally, just to be a dick, and also because I loved the sun, I would just in between class take off my shirt, walk around campus. It'd be like 35 degrees, but to me it felt so warm.
Yeah,
it was like, this is beautiful, dude. This is so nice. And honestly, I think that was a big part. This sounds so dumb and simple, but like the weather and just being able to be outside every day was how I got through a lot of the emotional turmoil that came for like when I actually got to Trinity and like was now in the programming and within the training. And I quickly realized like, whoa, motherfucker, this is going to be I had way underestimated what I had just gotten myself into.
Yeah.
Like I was so far behind from a talent standpoint. Like
there at Trinity?
Yeah. And it was D3 to D3. So like the D3 school I was at in Maine, we were super competitive, right? Like we were scrappy as fuck. We were like a military.
Yeah.
We did not get to hit nice baseballs.
Yeah.
Like there was you had to earn like the pearl that you got to hold or hit on game day was like something you coveted. We hit like the Sandlot dog balls, right?
Chewed up.
Yeah, it was all about like discipline and it was militaristic.
Yeah.
But and so we were great and very competitive, but like from a power standpoint up there, our hardest thrower was 86 miles an hour. And I think a lot of it has to do with the training and protocol, but a lot of it also has to do with, because of the weather, as a baseball player, you're stuck in a cage a lot.
Oh, I see.
So if you think about that versus down in Texas, I played long toss before, which is, basically where you take a baseball with your catch partner and extend. And
it opens you up a lot more.
It opens you up a lot more. Well, when you can get out to, because in baseball circles, like 300 feet, if you can throw the distance of a football field, up on an arc, that should equate to 90 miles an hour when you come back in and you're what they call pulling it down, like throwing it down hard on the line. It's definitely not a perfect translation, but, I started to just realize like, wow, that's one way to, without really having to think about it, like you said, it stretches you out. To throw a ball 300 feet, you have to have a certain level of energy and fluidity and like, and so, but it's versus if you're only ever in the cage doing this one thing, you just like trying to throw it harder. It's like you're in that box. Like that's to me was one of the parts of the mindset box and the athletic box.
Yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
You don't, and then visually when you're outside, like everything is expanded, it's wider, and then for me too,
and you get that feedback when you see the ball going that
100%. Yeah, you get to see the flight of the ball. Like, hey, is my ball cleanly rotating, or is it cutting, or is it flying off to the side? But it was also beautiful for me because it was the only place. Looking back now, not the only place, but one of the only places in the environment of throwing where I didn't feel crazy anxiety because there wasn't pressure on the target.
Yeah.
Like if I made what was, like a disconnected throw, right? Like the equivalent of like throwing a fastball behind a guy's head in the game.
Yeah.
If I fired it 20 yards to the right, like nobody gave a fuck.
Yeah.
Right? Because that, like within the framework of that game of long toss, it wasn't about hitting the target. It was about just being fluid and athletic and aggressive.
Yeah.
And so, but then what was crazy is like there would be this certain point where, 280 feet, 270 feet, 260. Again, dude, I'm telling you, my fucking shit it's tightening as I'm talking about it. And I still feel it today every time I play catch. But like, right at about like 180 feet and starting to come in from that. And for context, like pitching, you're 60 feet, 6 inches away, right? And so the closer we'd get to 60 feet, 6 inches, I felt this fucking war like going on in my body.
Oh, so that was just happening in your own mind and in your own body.
Oh, yeah.
You were putting that back on yourself.
Total fucking fear and panic about, am I going to hit that spot?
Yeah.
Because what Dave Smith told me when I got to Trinity and what other people have told me since, like Trevor Bauer, the guy that just won the Cy Young with the Reds, I was very fortunate. I got to train with him for 2 summers and really get to know him. And he told me it like this. He's like, pitching is an out-of-control phenomenon. And I was like, what the fuck? What is this talk? He was he's a super intellectual dude. You got to check him out. I'll send you some of his shit. He's fucking
What was his name again?
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, he was like, he's the Cy Young's the best pitcher in your league. So maybe people are listening.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so basically the whole point was like, I had this identity of who I was. I was Ryan Murphy, the strike throwing guy who could throw 4 pitches, who was a bulldog, who was gonna fucking compete and wring the towel dry. But like, I always prided myself on having command of the ball.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew that if I didn't have command, my day was gonna be over pretty quick because I didn't have good shit. Like, I didn't have a hard fastball. So now I had to try to rewire my brain at age 19 that, okay, when you go out into this game today and you're going to compete against these Trinity hitters, which ironically, like, I didn't even pitch for the first 2 years because I sucked. I didn't get into a single game, but our team was so good that looking back, I was pitching against the good motherfucking hitters, right? Or at least for that level.
I think we forget about that sometimes.
Yeah.
As we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to compete and excel, and we forget that who we're competing against. Some of those guys are top notch.
Dude, it's so true. But still, like, you know, at that point, so I basically, so many people in my life, when I told them I was coming down to Trinity, laughed in my face and told me, you're fucking an idiot. Like, kids on my team, all my best friends on my St. Joe's team. Because, like, look, naturally, you know, I was sad to be leaving them, but I was committed and convicted to, like, I've got to act on this dream.
Yeah.
Like, or I know I'll regret it. I don't know. There was just something inside of me that said, like, I know I will regret it if I don't take this leap.
Yeah.
And so all those people are reaching out to you, and I didn't know anybody in Texas either, by the way. So I'm just here solo. Like, love Texas. I'm so grateful I'm here.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's amazing, but it's totally fucking different.
Yeah.
Like, totally different culturally, right? So, but anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
You were you hadn't pitched the first 2 years.
Oh yeah. So anyway, it started to basically I had to figure out and this is where the anxiety really started to come for me, because I was at this crossing in the road of like, okay, I had to burn the boats. You've heard that expression I had to burn the boats on the guy that I was.
Yeah.
Which at a cellular level, when you go out into a competitive environment and you have a heightened state already, like there's already more cortisol, the stress is already heightened, you're already more anxious, to then try to depart from the identity of how you've succeeded in that stressful environment before and embrace this other idea of, like, in my instance, instead of being like a strike throwing command guy, I had to go out there and be like, I'm going to fucking rip a 92 mile an hour fastball by you, when, by the way, I'm still throwing 78.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this war that was like raging in my body, you know, plus the way that I had started to really think about the way that I practiced and think about pitching in general, I had started to get a lot more analytical about mechanics. I had started to, I'm just around all this information that I'm all excited about. And I'm in this environment where you're talking to guys. I had 12 guys at Trinity, for context. Remember I said at St. Joe's we had one guy that could hit 86. The first bullpen I watched at Trinity, I saw 12 guys touch 90 miles an hour.
Really?
And I'm fucking 78.
Jeez. So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
as far as the talent pool goes, I mean, there's talented people everywhere.
Yeah.
What was different at Trinity that gave them the ability to acquire so many guys who could throw that fast? Was it that what they were developing? Were they pulling these people from other states?
Good question.
Is it just the atmosphere and maybe the local schools and the way they teach, or what was that? Because that's pretty significant difference.
Yeah, dude, it is. I think it's a combination of things. I think number one, you know, Coach Scannell's had an incredibly successful career. And so, you know, he's also very well networked in the baseball community. So the way it works is like any other business or any other, you know, you refer things that work for you. Like, so if you have a service or a product that you like and you want to tell your friend about it, that's how they buy it, right? Yeah. So just like coaches, what would happen is like, let's say the Texas State coach recruits this guy who has an elbow injury and they pull his scholarship. Well, he might pick up the phone to Scandal and be like, hey, this just happened. I'm going to let him know that I'm going to vouch for you. And you get the inside scoop on, you'll know about this before anybody else, which is becoming increasingly more important with Twitter. Yeah. Because, I mean,
so easy to get
information can be disseminated so quickly. And so especially with somebody that's obviously a Texas State guy, you've got different tiers of recruits, right?
Yeah.
You always have to over recruit. So you always have to, go after, and I don't know the numbers, so don't quote me on it, but if you want to get 5, or I think our target every year at Trinity last time I knew was 3 blue chip target recruits every year. So those are the guys typically that you're taking away from, you're competing with a D1.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to go after a lot of these guys, but ultimately I think that's one of the ways they acquire talent. The other part from the pitching standpoint is that Dave Smith has developed a reputation for, and not just on a local level, but he's known in professional baseball as well. He's gotten a couple of opportunities the last couple of years to go join professional baseball at a pretty high level. But he loves what he's got going on. But anyway, so his reputation of developing velocity, that's becoming more and more important to this younger generation coming up now, the 14, 15, 16-year-olds, because they're more aware of the game and how they're going to be evaluated.
Yeah.
Right? I always tell them, and it's funny, but also it's true. It's if you're a Division I college, you have 11.7 NCAA scholarships to provide as a baseball team. So you've got to commit that. If you're committing that money to somebody, you've got to have, just like on Shark Tank, you got to have a business case.
Yeah.
So on Shark Tank, when you come out and you got your shit, Mr. Wonderful is going to be like, all right, tell me about your sales, right?
Yeah.
And so the sales would be your throwing velocity. And so these guys are now knowing at a younger age what their goal is and what their target is, and they have more access to know, what does my 60-yard dash have to be? Okay, where am I at today?
So tell me something about that.
Yeah.
What's Mr. Wonderful looking for in these athletes?
Oh, Mr. Wonderful. So he's looking for this. First, at the end of the day, he's looking for measurables. So just like you have to show your sales in business, you have to show you got to show the 5 tools in baseball to be considered a 5-tool player, right? Which is the dream. You want to be a 5-tool talent and be a perfect game 10, right?
Yeah.
So 60-yard dash, right? So depending on the position, and these numbers might be a little bit off, but I would guess about a 6.6 60-yard dash or 6.7. That's when it starts to be that your running speed's considered a tool at the higher levels, like D1 Pro. Your throwing arm is tool number 2. Your ability to hit for contact and average is tool number 3. Your ability to hit for power, home runs, doubles, triples, tool number 4. And then tool number 5 is your ability to defend. Within the framework of those 5 tools, the easiest and most often measured are the 60-yard dash. So if a kid goes to a showcase, they're in all likelihood going to get their 60-yard dash measured. They're going to get their throwing velocity measured from their position. So pitchers will throw off the mound, outfielders from the outfield. They'll have their exit speed off the bat measured. So you can basically, what I try to help guys with when I get a chance to work with them is first just asking them hey, dude, what do you want to do with this shit?
Yeah.
I don't care if you're 12 or 11 and that's why most of the time you got to have the parents away from the kid, because you got to get the kid, a lot of times it's their first time ever considering it. You can tell. Or they've got some prepackaged answer that you could tell is something that they didn't come up with.
So do you help guide them when you see that it's prepackaged?
Yeah, I just try to really say to them hey, look, I'm here to talk to you. And I know there's nothing that you're going to say that I'm going to be that I haven't heard before, or that's wrong. But I just basically said, if I'm going to, the analogy I give to them is we're climbing this mountain together, right? I need to know how high up you want to go. Because look, it's not like you're committing to this forever.
Yeah.
If you
I was
tell
going to
me,
ask, so you reevaluate that often with them? So let's say they come to you at 12 and then, at 13 or 14, is that something that y'all revisit again that way?
Oh, dude, way more frequent than that. I try to build it into every conversation.
Okay.
And I'm not perfect at it, but when I'm really doing my best is when, before I go ahead and, give some kid, because look, it's easy. It's easy in anything you do. 80% of it's going to be fucking boring.
Yeah.
Right? 20% of the reward, the result, the success is what it's about. So for a lot of these guys, the number one thing that they've got to battle through is the tedious nature of doing simple things well.
Yeah. On a totally different level, my dad coached Little League for years.
Yeah.
And it's funny because back home, there was this huge field everybody would practice on.
Yeah.
And when my mom would go take him Gatorade or water or whatever, something to eat, because he'd go there from after work, you could always find him because you had maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 teams out there.
Yeah.
They're all hitting, they're all throwing, they're all catching, they're all running bases. You could always find my dad's team because they would, the first 2 weeks, they sat around home plate with him and a whiteboard and a chair. They sat on their glove or their glove on their head because it was so hot. And he would go over everything before they even touched a ball. And these are little girls, you know. I'd say under 10 for the most part. Some of them a little bit older, maybe.
So they got some energy, man.
Dude, I tell you what, but they were smart.
That's great.
He was the only one, and now granted this is Little League level, but the only one who actually had plays. You know, he could call plays for kids on when to bunt, when to steal, when to do what base to throw it to. He never talked to them about the positions as in first base, second base, third base. Everything was the numbers. So he'd say, you know, so-and-so, you're 1, you're 2, you're 3, you're 4. The girls knew what position those were.
Nice.
You know, and he took it down to like a purist level. And when these girls left him, the following year, they always went to another team because they were good.
Yeah.
So he was always starting over, but he loved that part.
That's awesome, dude.
You know, but anyway, go back.
No. That's super cool. I mean, I think that, look, I have so much respect for your dad and for anybody that really takes the time with kids because, you know, I think especially, and I'm sure I'm going to get some eye rolls for saying this, but fuck it. There's just not enough men in the world that are fulfilling the role that a father, in my eyes, is designed to fulfill. Yeah. Which is holding people accountable.
Yeah. Or themselves accountable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, you gotta, like, one of the things I'm so grateful for from my old man was that, I mean, he taught me what it meant to compete. Yeah. Like, he taught me how to kill. Yeah. What I need to kill. And if I had only had my mom, God bless her, I think that lion inside of me would not, I'm not saying there couldn't have come out, but my old man was the one who knew how to let the lion out of the cage. Yeah. And he also made you aware of it. He made me aware of it, and he did a good job also of trying to give me some guidance on how to understand what environments I could flip that switch on and which ones not to. Yeah. And then that's the struggle, I think, for anybody is, well, I don't know. Let me ask you this. Like, do you think that people are born with that lion or without it or can it be developed?
You know, I think, it's funny because I always tell Nina, I always say people forget that human and mankind, we're just animals. Yeah. You know, we kind of pull ourselves away from the dogs in the living room. We're apes. You know, but we really are. Yeah. You know.
With egos.
And I think that I think everybody has that in them. I think everybody has different levels of it. And I think some people enjoy being able to control it or not control it or whatever. I will say this, growing up, I feel like I have that lion inside of me, that tiger or whatever it is, but I ignored a bunch. Like, growing up, my siblings were very good at sports, locally. Yeah. And me, a lot of sports when I was young came super natural. And my dog's drinking water, that's what that noise is. But go ahead, girl, get it.
Get it, girl.
But, you know, so to me, it's kind of like I never really developed young that competitive nature, you know, because I always practiced baseball or softball or football. I was always with my older siblings, you know. So I was competing against people who were older than me and more athletic and stuff. So when I competed with my peers, I was fairly decent, you know. Right. But I never got that killer instinct. You know, I knew what it was. I knew where I could go find it, but I just never had to rely on it. And and maybe that's from being the baby in the family. You know, my dad was probably a little more rough around the edges with my older siblings than he was with me. You know, by the time he got to me, it was my sister who was teaching me a bunch of stuff. You know, baseball wise, and we'd go outside and pitch and throw and hit and stuff all day long. But and then my older brothers too. So I never really I never really like tapped into it. You know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed competing, but after a while, it kind of became. I fell in love with the. First of all, I got super lazy. And I found food, and I was like, all right, it's a wrap.
Food's good, man.
Food's good, but I never got that cutthroat thing that I needed, and I think a lot of that, like listening to you, is you found it and developed it, and you had things going on in your life with your father and whatnot that made you go to that place more often than I had.
The dark side.
Yeah, more often than I had to.
Yeah.
I love hearing people's stories and talking to them and people that have been through some shit. And I'll be totally honest with you, everybody goes through stuff, but
yeah, man.
But I went through
way
very
worse
little.
than what I've gone through.
I've been through very little. I mean, we've had some stuff happen as I've gotten older and losing family and stuff like that. But I never needed anything. My dad always made sure we had it. We always at least I always felt like I didn't need anything, so I never felt the need to have to really rely on myself because I always had him. He always made sure that things were taken care of. Now maybe we didn't have the best of this or the best of that. We didn't know it, because it was there.
Yeah.
I always tell people the best thing that my dad gave me. And my siblings grew up a little more rough than I did. They didn't quite have the stability, I guess, that I had. But he always gave us a place to be home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's huge.
And so, like...
That's really cool.
When I was probably, I don't know, my brother Joe left to a neighboring town or whatever at some point. But I think I'm the one that left home more so than my other siblings, even though I didn't go very far. But it's like... I could do that because I always had a place to go back to. I didn't have the fear of, hey, if I don't make it over here, everything's going to fall apart.
Right.
I was like, shit, I'll go try it. And if it doesn't work out, I'll go to Dad's house.
Yeah. That's cool.
I always had that. So I think that when I see you and I see your competitive nature and your ability to harness that, I love watching it because
I appreciate it, man.
I haven't been in the position where I had to do it. You know? And not necessarily that it's not there. It's just, for lack of better terms, it's kind of cake growing up.
Yeah. Now, look, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I think that, to be honest and reflecting, like I had definitely a cake from zero to, that was really the only. It I guess got dialed up pretty quick, and I don't even want to put it in the context of like, look, I know people go through way worse shit than me. Like that is on the scale of all the other shit that's going on around here. Like I can't even imagine what most people go through.
Well,
but
the thing you got to keep in mind too is yes, there's a lot of people that go through a lot of shit.
Yeah,
that's
like,
tough.
And everybody's like, I've heard it's like you either in a storm, heading to a storm, or on your way out of a storm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I don't know who said that, but it's true, right?
One thing that I think, I agree. And one thing that I think that people forget is a lot of times it's easy to go, and it's super important to say, I'm experiencing some shit, but it could be worse.
Oh, yeah.
But it's okay to go, but this is my shit, and I'm experiencing this. And it's all right to lick your wounds every now and then. You just can't stay in that state.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I think that that's something definitely that I struggle with is... I do like to go back. I think it's going back to the whole anxiety conversation. I think that where it's at for me now is I spend a lot of time trying to still dissect parts of my past to try to better understand them. There's like this part of my mind that wants to keep asking why and keep trying to like get to the bottom of every single thing, because I feel like if I understand it better, I'll be able to better analyze what's going on around me and, more quickly detect before I go too far down a path that will put me or my family in jeopardy. Yeah. If that makes sense. It's like a survival thing. But I also think that I have fears, my own insecurities related to like fear about the future. And I think it's fear of death is definitely one. Yeah. And I think that when we lost Steph's dad, that was something that really brought my mortality to my face. Yeah. And then also fear of failing, like just fear of trying to super hard at something and like giving everything I have, and then getting to the end point or the target, to use that mountain analogy, to get into the top and feeling like, or either not being able to get to the top and being like, damn, everybody was right, like I wasn't good enough to get to the top, or getting to the top and being like alone and feeling like, fuck, did I waste my life chasing something that like wasn't the right thing?
You know, I'm glad you said that, because it's I've been experiencing that myself.
Huh.
But a little bit, I'd say almost kind of opposite of you. Like when my brother Eddie passed a couple years ago, same thing. My mortality came into light, you know.
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, though, when I had a couple of those episodes of anxiety, you know, you were like, I talked about where I felt like I was going to die,
Yeah.
you know, and you asked, was I cool with it? And I said, I was kind of was. And, you know, when I was a kid, my grandmother died. I think she was like 63 or 64, so she was young. And but I remember when Grandma died, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, this is how old people are when they die. You know, I didn't realize. I was a stupid kid. I didn't know.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, okay, the best I'm going to live to is 64.
Right.
You know? And so early on, I think her passing, she lived with us for a while, and I think her passing kind of put death in my face a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, anytime family members would die, parents or friends, I always made an effort to go to their funerals, you know? Because to me, it's kind of like, I can always pay this one last respect to this person, you know? If I don't go, I won't have that opportunity again. So let me go do this. So I've always tried to make an effort to get there. And there was one recently that of some close friends that I didn't make, just because I have, ever since Eddie died, my brother died, I've had a hard time going to those because it gets super rough.
Yeah,
but
brings you right back to.
Yeah, and so I try to avoid that, I guess, to some extent, but it's granted, I want to live as long as possible. So God, if you're listening, try to live as long as possible. But at the same time, it's kind of like after Eddie passed, it was I don't know, super weird, because you don't want to become, you still want to be ambitious, you still want to achieve goals and set goals and go after them, but after a while it kind of made me reevaluate. It was like, okay, what's important?
Yeah,
dude,
man.
I was a workaholic, big time, since I was 20. It's funny because when we watch sports, I haven't watched sports in forever. Nina loves sports. You know, we'll put on the Hawks will be playing basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for, I know they're not there anymore, but I'm looking for Spud Webb and Dominique. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
Because that's the last time I watched it.
Those dunk contests were the shit.
They were awesome, man.
Spud Webb throwing it fucking down.
But that's when I stopped watching sports.
Yeah.
Because it was just working all the time. You know, and I grew up in a small town, and my dad was a workaholic. His dad left when he was, I think in the 4th grade. Dad quit school in the 7th grade. To support the family.
Damn.
So back home, there wasn't a whole lot of work, you know? So it was kind of like, well, you know, when you get a job, you keep it. You work hard, and you don't, be careful. You don't want to lose your job.
Yeah.
You know? So that was always instilled in us, and kind of, if you got a job and they had something for you to do, screw everything else, you got to work.
Yeah.
You know? And so I did that for probably like 25 years now. And now that Eddie had passed, I kind of put things in perspective, and I wish I'd have found that balance a long time ago, and I still work on it.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to make time for the other stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, you kind of sit there and you go, well, what are people gonna remember you for? You know, I would tell Nina back when I was at another job, we worked a lot of hours. I was like, dude, if I die tomorrow, so you know what I did with all my adult time? I fucking worked.
Yeah.
And don't want that to be it. You know,
Yeah.
you've got to make time. I saw a post the other day. This lady who was our division manager, her name's Lisa Jaster. She'd posted something, and I'm gonna screw it up, but it said something in reference to you either make time for your health now, or you are forced to make time for your illness later.
Spot on, dude.
And it's funny because that stuck in my head, because I'm in terrible shape, you know. But slowly we're starting to, eat a little better and work out a little more. And you know, it's funny because I always told Nina I got instant gratification. I gotta have it right now.
Yeah.
And if I don't have it right now, I don't want it, you know, later on.
Right.
And so that's kind of defeats the whole exercise thing, because that thing's a marathon, you know.
Yeah.
I want the sprint. I want it to be quick and over with, you know,
Right.
but it's like, that's not what it is. But anyway, I kind of took off on a tangent.
No, you're good. How long do you feel like you've been overweight?
Shit, forever.
Like, for real?
Oh, forever. But you know, it was funny because I grew up with a bunch of big dudes back in high school. And it was funny because even though we were big guys, we were athletic.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, that's youth. You know, that's youth giving that to you.
Yeah.
You know, and so even as a fat dude, I could literally, and my sister will testify to this, but I don't know why I did it in front of her, but I used to jump into my shorts. So like I'd have underwear on, but I'd stand there and I'd jump and I'd throw my shorts on and put them on that way.
Yeah.
And but after a while, you start getting older, and your body doesn't respond the way it used to.
Yeah.
And you go, oh shit, now I'm just a fat old dude. You know, before I was just fat.
When did you ever feel like that? When did you feel like that for the first time? Remember?
You know what? My buddy Bojan had just built a house. He's in the middle of construction, and I remember I went to go step up onto the back porch. There's a steel post. I reached for the post. I stepped up with one leg, and I went to stand up, and that was the first time that I basically needed both legs to stand up from that. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't lift my body weight with that one leg, you know, from probably 4 foot high.
And you expected like no problem?
I expected like no problem. And I remember thinking, what the fuck?
Damn, isn't that fucking crazy when you go do something and you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now, you know, it's funny because like my nephew, Tim Ingram, he's got Heavy Metal Fitness there in San Antonio.
Yeah, the place is sweet.
It's amazing.
He's a beast,
yeah.
by the way.
And he's awesome. And you know, I was training with him for a little while, and one thing that I learned a lot from him was, this was a problem after high school, was I would exercise like I did in high school, right? But now I'm 30, right? 44 now, but now I'm 30, and I'm hurting myself, right? So I'm doing something for a couple weeks, and all of a sudden my Achilles hurts, or my I pull a muscle, or my hamstring, or my shoulder, or a twisted ankle, and now I'm 4 weeks before I start, and it's starting over and over and over. I didn't know anything else other than the shit we learned in high school.
Yeah, right.
So working out with him, it was funny because I'd go there and we'd use those bands, you know, all kinds of stuff like that.
Dude, their gym is like
it's awesome.
the nicest one I've been
By the
to.
way, that's your pocket constitution.
Oh,
man.
thank you very much. I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, you can take that with you.
Hell yeah.
But so he was introducing me into ways to work out that were more resistance than impact, and I probably said that wrong. He'll laugh his ass off, but I wasn't hurting myself. I was getting a workout. I was breathing hard. My heart rate was going up. I was feeling stronger, and I wasn't hurting myself. So, but that was getting information from him. I was learning from him. You know, that's the shit that he specializes at. You know, and so it helped a whole lot. And it helps to be able to go to somebody who knows their shit. That way, it keeps you in working out longer.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
You don't get hurt. Now, I will say this: at his gym, with all due respect, there's a lot of hot chicks there, man. And he would put fucking...
I did notice that there were some attractive females.
There were some attractive females, a lot of spandex, a lot of thick muscle.
Spandex.
Yes.
A lot of guys would be like, that's not a movement we need to be talking about.
But, we'd go to do like an overhead press, right? And he'd be like, here's 15s. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, there's a lot of hot chicks in here. You got me overhead pressing 15s. And so he's got those.
Oh, I can totally relate to that shit. That's hilarious.
So he even has those 15s that are the same diameter as 45s, but they're like a quarter of an inch thick.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even that was a worse slap in the face. So it's hard to look good being the fat out of shape guy overhead pressing with 15 on the other side. So,
this is just a warm-up set. This is just a warm-up set.
Good thing I married Nina way before that. There's no backing out.
That's hilarious.
But, that it's funny because Dude, I'm a cocky motherfucker. It's
That's what
ridiculous.
I love about you.
Oh, I'm terrible. I have, for being fat and unattractive, I have way too much self-esteem. So when I go to stuff like that, or things like that happen to me, I always laugh about it because
That's awesome that you laugh at yourself, though.
well, to me, it's like, okay, it's my God smack, right? God's letting me know, hey, man, you ain't the shit.
That's tight.
You think you are,
Yeah.
but here, just like some of the other stuff, we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe not making it to the restroom like I needed to.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's God putting me in line, man.
No doubt.
And He does it every now and then, and it's funny because I don't ever get upset or I don't get down because I don't know why, but He gave me way too much self-esteem. So every now and then He's got to slap me down a little bit, and I deserve it.
Nah, I mean, hey, look, we definitely all deserve it, but I also feel like, dude, you got great energy, and self-esteem to me is like, I think we also live in a world right now where self-esteem is so much more up for grabs than ever before, just because we're all being so inundated with, targeted advertisement in our pockets, basically, and then also, it's just like, I think the way that human communication is happening largely now is not like this. Like, this is a real conversation.
Yeah.
I just really, worry about the ability for us to all be able to move forward in a meaningful way, and within the framework and context of just society as a whole, when the trend continues to go more in the direction of away from human conversation, and social media being only the predominant, or like even with all the video conferencing stuff that's happened now as a result of COVID, like, I don't know. Yeah, maybe is video conferencing a little better than the phone? I don't know. Personally, if I have to put on like a nice shirt to see you on a video conference, I'd rather just talk to you on the phone with no shirt on.
Yeah, I'd prefer to see that. I think a lot of times, and this is maybe something that again I have a little too much of, but I think a lot of people have focused and have been encouraged to focus on the things that they are. And nobody makes a whole lot of time to focus on what they are not. And it's important to know both.
What do you mean by that?
It's like when I tell you I have too much self-esteem. I walk around this motherfucker like I'm the best looking guy in the room. I know I'm not the best looking guy in the room, but I sure think I am.
I got you. So like the self-awareness.
Self-awareness. And it's okay to not... It's okay to not be the best looking guy in the room.
Yeah, no doubt.
Act like it, motherfucker.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, that's so fucking true and powerful.
But people always say, well, you can't bring that up. You have to ignore that. Don't talk about somebody's faults. And it's like, we're all different.
No doubt.
We all have faults.
We're all fucked up.
Embrace them.
Yeah.
And
be able to laugh about them and talk about them out loud.
Yes. You know what helped me with that? I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I grew up with 4 siblings, a sister, 3 brothers, all sons of bitches. And when there was something negative in our life, especially my brother Eddie fucked up a lot. Great guy, fucked up a lot. We'd always force feed our negative stuff to each other, And if you felt bad about a messed up relationship, we let you know how bad you fucked that relationship up. And after a while, it didn't hurt as bad anymore.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So after a while, yes, it's negative and it's negativity.
But it's being acknowledged. It's out there.
Being acknowledged,
Yeah.
And you're facing it. And after a while, you're like, you know what? It's not so bad.
It doesn't have power over you.
It doesn't have power over
That's
you.
powerful. Dude, that's a really interesting way of putting it. I mean,
We
you're
grew
right.
up that way, man. We force-fed our fucking faults
No,
to
everybody
each
was
other.
always talking shit.
Yes, all the
I
time.
mean, dude, so that's like the biggest change come from Massachusetts or the Northeast to Texas was like, first of all, everybody was so fucking nice. It made me super uncomfortable. Like people would literally, I'd be like walking somewhere and somebody would be like walking, be like, hey, and I'd be like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
Because up there it'd be like, why the fuck are you talking to me? Like, I don't fucking know you.
My wife tells me all the time, she's like, why do you wave to everybody? I'm like, that's just what I do.
I actually waved to everybody too.
Yeah.
I don't know why I do that. That's funny. But then, yeah, I don't know. But that type of shit, dude, you're absolutely right. Like, I think increasingly there's just all this assault on on our fundamental humanities,
Yeah.
like which naturally contain imperfections.
Sure.
Right? Like guys are gonna make dirty jokes.
Yeah.
People are gonna say off-color shit. Right? Like, and I think that it's really actually, I think that at least for me, my favorite places to be are environments where I can be authentic with people.
Yeah.
And that includes being around people that I know that, like, I want people to talk shit to me. Like, because like, maybe they'll be able to point out some shit, going back to the awareness that I can't see.
You know, there's I always tell people, everything's connected. Everything's touching each other.
Yeah.
It's funny because you said you like to be in places that you can be authentic. And I love that you said that, because one thing people need to understand is sometimes being authentic with your buddies is not being authentic, right? So when you're with your buddies, you're going to say stupid shit.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to say off-color jokes. You're going to say inappropriate things.
Exactly.
But that's you being authentic with your friends. It's not necessarily the person that you are in your core, in your heart.
No.
It's just you cracking up with your buddies.
Yeah, man. It's
you know?
like you getting to explore that, the human side of us that all know, like, when you say something ridiculous, it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
Well, and it's hilarious because it's ridiculous. And if you like try to, like, why would you not want to turn the volume up on that all the way to 10 so everybody could get a little bit of a deeper belly laugh, man?
Yes.
I mean, what the fuck is life about?
Some of the funniest shit I've ever heard was offensive to me.
Oh, exactly, dude.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can call me fat, whatever, ugly. I don't give a shit. If it's funny,
I love that about you.
let's do it, man. You know,
Yeah.
as long as it's funny, you're not gonna hurt my feelings.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think that's where people become a little too sensitive to things.
Soft,
you know,
man.
it's super soft. And it's like you have to have that mental awareness to know, hey, I don't give a shit about that. It's not true. You know, and again, that comes back to knowing who you are and knowing who you're not. You know, somebody can say whatever, you know, yes, I'm unattractive and fat, but you know what? When I fucking look in the mirror, I find the best spot on me and I focus on that shit. And I go, you're a good looking motherfucker. It's funny because if I go take my clothes off in front of the mirror right now, I'm going to find all the good qualities. Now, when I see somebody's phone and they took a picture of me, there's times where I'm like, who the fuck is that guy?
Damn.
He's terrible. And then I'll go look in the mirror again and I'm in love.
There you go.
But you know, you got to know who you are and who you're not. And you know what? If you can't fix some of the things that you're not, just fucking embrace them. Who cares? Because nobody's
Dude,
perfect.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also going back to like the anxiety part, I also feel a tremendous, or by the time I was on my way out of corporate America, you know, in my sales job, I got to the point where the evolution of the workplace language code was such that it had gotten out of control. And I got to the point where I was so anxious about being in the office, in terms of being freely myself, like to have fun, which, by the way, like for sales, being fun to be around is probably pretty important, right?
Yeah.
Like if people are, every time you call, every time you show up, somebody's like, oh God, I don't want to deal with this motherfucker. Like people want to have a good time. So
Well, I'd imagine in sales, and you would know better than I would, but I'd imagine in sales you have a short window to make an impression on somebody, to make them feel comfortable to buy from you.
Exactly right, dude.
So-
Exactly right.
And
I
that
think-
has to be on all the time, because you can't just turn it on as soon as they pick up the phone. That shit needs to be on.
Yeah,
you know?
no doubt. Like
'Cause
that is your
window's so
job.
short.
That is your job. You're right. I mean, because it's like that's a controllable.
Yeah.
Like you can't control how anybody else in your environment is gonna. The person you're meeting with might just have had the worst thing ever happen to them. But like your controllable has to be that whether or not you feel like it, it's performance time. Turn on the energy. Turn on the smile. Like, but then also have enough know-it-all to understand where that person's trying to go. You know, like, hey, what are they trying to accomplish? Like, what? It's very similar to working with the guys I work with from a coaching standpoint. It's like, hey, look, tell me about the journey you're trying to go on. Like, I'll tell you once I understand better. I'll let you know how I would go about that, or if I even have the expertise to help you with that. Because if I don't,
Yeah.
I'll try to help you find somebody that does. Or
Tell everybody real quick.
Yeah.
your Murphy performance.
Murphy baseball performance.
Yeah. Tell everybody a little bit about that, because the
Yeah.
thing I think is cool about that, and I didn't know about you till today, is I know that you were involved in that, and I know that you have that going on, but seeing where you've come from, it's almost like you are the perfect guy to be doing that kind of thing, because
appreciate it.
you know where these kids are coming from,
Right.
and whether everybody's looking for the top-notch kid, you know,
Right.
but who's helping the guy that needs more reps and more time, you know? And it sounds like that's where you're falling in, which I think is pretty cool.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, no, it's so Murphy Baseball Performance is something that my brother Connor and I started. It was 2017, so I was still doing full-time sales, but you know, my brother actually traveled this whole journey with me, which made it really cool too. Like,
That's cool.
he and I would spend those summers in Houston training with you know, Trevor Bauer and Eric Binder and Cody Springer and all these guys at this baseball ranch. And so it was cool because we literally, that was like our bond, right? Like, that's where we put our fuel and energy from everything that happened with our family situation. It was just like, hey, fuck it. Like, we're going to both go all in on this dream. And we got each other here. So it was sick. Like, we fucking had air mattresses.
Yeah.
We didn't have a car, so we'd have to like walk to Walmart and then try to speed walk back so that our Bluebell ice cream didn't fully fucking melt.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it got started. And then, you know, hindsight 2020, but I didn't do a very good job in terms of the partnership of helping him be successful, because I had too much going on, and I also just sucked as a manager, if you want to call it that. But anyway, so then since then I've been doing it on a smaller scale, but since July, got an opportunity to head over to this place, DST, which has really been a blessing because...
That's there in San Antonio?
Yeah, it's here in San Antonio. It's over off Nacogdoches.
Okay.
So incredible spot. And, you know, it's like one of those situations where you walk in and you fucking can feel it. And so
Yeah.
I walked into that place. My pitching coach from Trinity, Dave Smith, who's the pitching director over here at DST, called me on a Sunday and was like, "What are you doing?" And it was in the middle of all this coronavirus shit. And I'm like, you know, I just feel like a trapped animal.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm like, nothing. Like, what, you know, and Stephanie's ready to kill me because try living with me in a fucking 2-bedroom apartment. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And then
I was trying to give you directions here, and I was ready to pull my hair out.
oh, dude, I'm a directional retard. There's no question about it. Like, I literally have no capacity to operate without. Like, if the grid goes down, I'm fucked most in terms of my directional. Like, I won't even be able to find my apartment from inside my complex.
Just remember the sun sets to the west.
To the east.
West.
Oh shit. So, anyways, yeah. So now it's basically like I'm going, you know, 5-6 days a week, which that's always the challenge with baseball, right? Like, I love it, but I have a hard time not going all the way back in, because originally the expectations I set with my wife were I'm going to do like 3 nights a week, because, you know, I've got my day job at the PEO link, and I love that as well, and that's really the income producer for my family.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I'm going with this, and we're going like basically 3 to 9. We got groups of like 10 guys rotating through, and it's cool because, you know, you really get to build a relationship with these kids. And we have anywhere from the youngest guy we got there is 13. This young guy, his name's Caleb, and he's actually somebody that I trained before, and he's great. And then all the way up to like we have a bunch of minor league professional guys there too. And so, you know, really the thing that's been cool about this is it's working within the framework of a team. So I've got Dave, and then I've got another guy, Garrett, who's 25, and he's like a fucking data scientist, dude.
Oh, really?
So he worked for the Dodgers, and I don't know if it's the data science, but that's what the fuck he does. He like all this cutting edge technology shit that like, it's crazy. I've been out of being fully focused on this whole baseball training and development thing for 2 years. The technology's so fast that like I was on the cutting edge 2 years ago with a nice radar gun.
Yeah.
Now there's like things that there's languages I don't even speak.
Really?
Yeah. And so he's there. So it's cool because you have all this different information. You're trying to collaborate. You're trying to design plans. And then, you know, but ultimately I think that the most impactful thing is just understanding that day by day, these dudes are human beings, right? Just like us. So, you know, you got to kind of like figure out and meet them where they're at and try to get a sense from them out of going back to the goals thing, for me, I try to really be mindful of, hey, first of all, we're trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? Like, you could tell right when they walk in if they've got energy, if they don't.
Yeah.
Right? And so you got to kind of help them unpack emotionally whatever other shit they're dealing with, right? A lot of them are super just depressed and burned out on being stuck at home, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Or tired of wearing masks, or not to get political, but that's just
Sure.
a lot of the shit that they're like.
Well, it's not in our nature to do all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Continuously. So.
Exactly. And I think there's also a lot of like the sentiment of, is what am I training for? Because when I start to talk to them about their goals, like, let's say if I got a guy that wants to be the Friday night starter, which is the best starter in a college rotation, Friday night's your first game, a TCU Friday night starter, which is like a top 10 program. Well, I always try to put it in the framework of, like, what would that guy act like? Like, if you were watching a video of him, and what would he walk around like? Would he, when he makes a bad pitch, how does his head drop? Do his shoulders shrink? And I try to, as we understand where they're at for that day, when we tie it back, and, it's then trying to get them to say, all right, well, hey, look, like, you're here, so let's fucking, like, get something accomplished, because you're already here.
Yeah.
So the next 45 minutes of time we're going to pass by. It actually just takes as much effort and energy to fucking do nothing, because you're doing nothing, even if you try to bury it, as
Probably
it does
more
to blow
energy.
it up. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're here, you might as well. So then it's like helping them identify what is the mission for today in terms of like, what do you want to walk out of here with? Like, we have a framework of our plan, right? Like, today is a recovery type day because we just threw hard yesterday. But it's like trying to get them to conceptualize, okay, for your next bullpen, what do you feel, what do you want to accomplish? Like, what would be success to you in the next bullpen? They let you know, and you try to help them simplify it. And then, okay, so what one thing can you work on within the framework of this today that you could walk out of here feeling like, okay, I took one step closer to, that next bullpen. And then if that's not emotionally connecting, the next thing to do is to then put in the framework of, hey, remember that TCU goal we talked about, right? Because, like, you told me that. Like, you looked me in the eyes when I told you, hey, I don't want to hear because what most of these kids do, and it's so sad, is they've got a preconceived notion, to your point, of this box, of based on who's told them what, where they're competent enough or capable of going. So you'll see a kid be like, hey, I'm like, hey, so what do you want to do with the game? They're like, oh, I don't know, just like play for as long as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, motherfucker. Like, and I swear, I'm honest with them, and I think it helps, it builds trust.
Yeah.
They know I'm being real with them. I talk to them just like I talk to the adults. And if they have a problem with it, the parents do, then I understand, but, like, I'm not going to be your guy.
Sure.
Because to me, my job is to help your kid. We're going to a primal environment.
Yeah.
I'm going to take them to a place of their mind that they've never been before and never probably been encouraged to go to. And in order to do that, I need to help them start to frame for me every day what their target is.
That primal environment I like the way you said that, because that's so important. And I think unless you're in something similar to what you're providing these kids, people don't understand how important that is and how powerful that is in general, And
Right.
going back to us just being animals, people get so preoccupied with things going on. And it's like when I think about it, and you're turning on this primal environment that you're talking about, when I think about it, you're going back to the most simplest form of thought and being, and you're throwing everything out the window, all the bullshit, all the problem with somebody at work, the sitting in traffic, getting cut off. All of a sudden, none of that matters except for what you're hyper focused on.
No doubt.
And when you can get your mind to that primal environment, it makes you more effective. And I think a lot of times, guys and girls can both get there, but I think a lot of times, as kids grow up, they're not encouraged to tap into that. And it's like, it's there for a reason.
No doubt. It's the most valuable resource that any
Yeah.
of us have. But I think that the other part of it is the dark side. And Tim Grover has a book called Relentless. Tim Grover was Kobe Bryant's trainer, Michael Jordan's trainer.
Okay.
So he spends time around the alpha predators.
Yeah.
And he has this thing called, he talks about the dark side, that he's never worked with anybody who's elite, who doesn't have this dark energy, whether it's, the the need to fucking prove somebody wrong, or they have some they want to fuck you up for some reason more than almost anybody else you're going to meet is going to want to fuck you up. They're going to obsessively pursue a result.
Yeah.
Like no matter what. And so his whole thing is like, but with that dark energy to keep that switch flipped on, to be able to consistently perform at a championship level in anything in business, and that what happens when you go home. Because when the dark energy is not being put into, like, let's say for Michael Jordan, have you seen that documentary?
Oh yeah, it was good.
You liked it?
Yeah, I loved
Sick,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Savage. He's so like for him it was gambling, right? Like he always needed to keep the action going, because going back to the analogy of the lion, like once the lion sees how powerful it is out in the jungle, it doesn't want to go back into the zoo.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to go back into that fucking cage. So it's like, how do you, the example he gives of Tiger Woods, like his dark side was the chicks.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think most people, especially when you become aware of the power of that energy, it's terrifying, because you realize just how powerful you can become if you learn how to harness it, which is what I believe that most people are actually afraid of, is how powerful they could truly become.
Yeah.
Because it's a tremendous responsibility
Oh yeah.
to be able to craft your life in the fashion and give the effort, time, and energy to that thing to unleash that power.
Yeah.
So that's hard and scary. And then the other part of that is that people are afraid of what's going to happen outside of, like I can speak for myself. Like I have had significant problems in terms of when I go into the work environment, like turning that off or learning how to modulate it.
Yeah.
Because, and look, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I've got like the number one killer mentality on the planet, but I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And the beauty about this for me, going back to the context of the kids, is when we test our velocity, right? In baseball, there's a pitch, right? Most people think baseball is super boring. I get it, but like if you really understand the intricacy of what's happening
It's
between every
actually
pitch,
my favorite sport.
I
Go
love
ahead.
it. I love it. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
It really
right
is.
there.
It
Fist
really
pound.
is.
I love it. So there's this 15 to 20 second window of time that happens between each pitch. It's usually 130 pitches in a game, not in a game. And so what you do with the time between each pitch and the 6 inches between your ears, and your ability to have awareness of, hey, when the clock hits 0 and it's time to compete on the next pitch, whether you're hitting, on defense, how do you get back to that green light mode as best you can? Like basically, how can you from pitch to pitch develop an awareness of what pulls you out of the ability to compete at 100% for the next pitch? And then when you do get pulled away, what buttons can you push on that are going to get you moving back in the right direction?
Yeah.
And so the beauty of the radar gun is there is a direct correlation for each kid. They might not be aware of it at first, but they become aware of it, of when you go to fucking throw something as hard as you can and there's a big display and everybody in the place can see it. So a shitty throw, you feel pretty shitty about, because you're a bare ass. That's what I always tell kids. Like, you guys ready to go walk around with your pants off? Right? Because like, that's what it feels like, right? Like, and because if it's not going good, everybody's watching. But the beauty of being able to say to a kid who then, you get the video, right? This is one of my favorite things to do. Everybody wants to watch video on mechanics. I like taking video of a kid, of the reaction right after a throw, and following him as he walks back through the line, and then playing it back for him after and being like, hey, remember that 20-second window we talked about? I want you to tell me if you think those 20 seconds, if you're watching you do this for those 20 seconds, like, walk me through the journey of what that guy was doing. Like, does that look like it would produce a better result on the next throw? Yeah. And then most of them are like, see themselves and they're like shocked, right? And then, but then the next part of that is, okay, and then you get them, so then you just get them trying to control, at least for me, like taking up space. I have this thing, like I stole it from Tom Hansen, who's a great mindset guy for baseball. ABC, so like when in doubt, in the 20 seconds in between each pitch, A is act big, so like physically take up space. B is breathe big, so like like a big full breath, get you back to present, and then C is commit big. So like, even if you don't feel like it, we're giving your brain a physical postural, hey, like we're getting big, we're breathing big. So we're taking control of the autonomic nervous system, like, and then when we're going to commit, it's like, I always tell them, hey, like the volume of that commitment in your brain has got to be fucking loud.
Yeah.
Like, it's not some whisper. It's not some fucking, like, you need to be all the way foot up. We have this other expression, all gas, no brakes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, look, everybody here is going to fuck up tonight, including me.
Yeah.
We need to be all committed to slamming into the fucking wall with the foot all the way on the gas, because if we go to pull the e-brake for any time, which, hey, it's totally human, right? Like, for these guys, a lot of it is fear of the pain, because it's a painful process as you're trying to throw these things hard, and you know, you're maybe not strong enough yet or what have you, but it's like they have to learn how to battle with those demons inside. And then the awesome thing is when you see them really click on the first time of going, I'll be like, hey, motherfucker, like you just threw the throw before that was 76. That throw was 81 too. Like, you cannot miss this moment. Something radically changed there, and it's nothing physical. So what changed for you? What made you click? And the other fun part is, you know, as you get to know them, I always talk shit to everybody, right? Because it's fun.
Yeah.
We talked about that. But like, you talk shit to these kids and you can kind of see like what makes them click. So it's like, I got this one kid who's a skinny lefty. He's probably like 14 years old, and braces, like real big smile. And he throws kind of like Madison Bumgarner, who's like that low sidearm lefty. So he's like 78. And so I literally just like walk up to him and I'm like, what a pussy, dude. You can't throw 80. And he looks at me and his fucking eyes clicked. Like, it was like, I'm going to watch me, motherfucker. He goes and fucking throws it like 81.5.
Really?
Right? And so it's like, all right, now I know that there's a button. I'm storing that in my memory bank, and there's a button for him. And so I'm going to try to find as many buttons as I can. And then once I start to really understand what buttons actually work, because some buttons work for one time, but they're not going to keep being able to be pushed. And then once I've really honed in on what I believe, then I'm trying to help them understand, hey, now within the framework of that ABC, here's the next level. Like, here are the buttons that you need to learn how to push for yourself. You know, like one of the powerful buttons for me when I'm really struggling, because I still get so scared to like even, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, hey, I'm so scared to play catch with you guys every time we do. And it's honest. Yeah. I'm so terrified that I'm going to like make a shitty throw, because it's like, God, I don't want to have the yips. I don't want to have them think that I suck, and then like I'm not good enough to help them, or you know, I still have all that head trash, but you just like learn how to take over. Yeah. And you show up and you become more aware of what fears you're going to encounter in that environment. Like, and then you have a plan for how you're going to deal with it, and then you keep the framework of understanding that there's controllables and non-controllables, and the more that you can focus on the controllables and executing them consistently and well and with conviction, the non-controllables start to like put themselves in place. Yeah. You know? But I think at the end of the day, the baseball thing for me became more about the way that I want to be remembered for approaching fear, because it's the most terrifying thing that I still do is the pitching, like actually pitching. Like, I play in a men's league, a 30-plus league here in San Antonio. It's a lot of fun. Great guys. And I still get so fucking scared. Like, once I got really the yips at 19, like, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of them. Even talking about it again, like, it's all fucking seizing up. But it's like, you just literally have this awareness. It's mentally exhausting. This is why I have so much admiration for professional athletes in general, anybody who's at the elite, like the focus, the obsessive focus it takes to be able to stay in that state. I've got to, like, everything inside of me when I find out I'm going to go pitch in this men's league, which, by the way, I'm not trying to be insulting to these guys, but like, I've pitched on way bigger stages than the men's league on a Sunday. Sure. And in reality, I'm throwing 10 or 15 miles an hour harder than everybody else in the league. So I'm in a position of dominance, but I'm still so terrified that my wife is going to think I'm a fucking loser because I've dedicated so much time to this, and she's videotaping it, and she like back there and like, oh my God, what a fucking loser.
Well, the good thing about her is she would let you know.
Yeah, she
if you were
would.
being a
Yeah,
loser,
no
so-
doubt. And that's what I love about her. She's like, damn, that sucked. And I'm like, thanks. Yeah, like but it's also like, and this is where I feel like I'm uniquely able to connect with just people in general, is like, I try to just be real and vulnerable with them, because it's true. It's like, dude, I fucked up a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I fucked up a lot. But I think at the end of the day, the best thing that you can help anybody realize is like that they're in control of their destiny, ultimately, right? Like, yes, blaming other people for problems and shit, it's human. Like, I do it.
Sure.
I think we all do it. It's so easy to do it. Like, it's
I do
so
it like-
easy to do
I
it.
do it like crazy.
Dude, I mean, I think like anybody who would tell you that they don't, I would say is probably not got the awareness. I just don't. Maybe I mean, it could be wrong, but I think everybody does it. It's natural.
They do. They do.
Like, who wants to? It's fucking hard to look in the mirror and be like, I need to own everything,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that's a decision that has to be made. Like, for me, and I don't. At the end of the day, a lot of days still can't look in the mirror and be like, fuck yeah, like I really like own this day. But I do think it's an important thing. Oh, you're good, dude. You're good. I do think it's an important thing that I try to hold myself to, in the sense of like, but looking in the mirror in the morning and before I go out into the world, really trying to use that mortality thing that we talked about earlier to bring it to my face and to choose to see it instead of paranoia about it, like, as, wow, like if this was really literally the last thing. Like, I say that to guys all the time too. If this was like the last throw you're ever going to make, right? Like, what would you want your signature on that throw to be like? Like, what would be the lasting legacy of the way that you attacked it?
Yeah.
Like, whatever the fucking result is the result. Like, you know, like, hopefully the result gets there, but that's where you have to have, to me, like, faith in something bigger than you, and also like patience.
It's almost like the result is almost less important than the intent.
Dude, you literally hit it on the head. It's so fucking, so literally the hierarchy of importance at this place I trained at, the Texas Baseball Ranch. And that was where we, met all those guys, and they were way ahead of their time. But that's what the first priority for developing an elite pitcher was: mindset. And then so he talked about growth mindset versus fixed mindset and all the different characteristics. And then number 2 was intent.
Yeah.
And so he would always say this thing, like, Ron would always say this thing of, what most people don't understand is that what it really takes to throw hard is you have to fucking throw it hard.
Yeah. I love that.
Like, he would do that little, I don't know what the right word is, but he would do that with his voice.
Inflection, I guess.
Inflection, there you go. Nice. That's like a 4-point word, dude. Yeah, he would do that with his voice. And I remember thinking, like, and dude, that is so true. And so, like, I'll still do it sometimes with these kids. I actually got up to 100 miles an hour for the first time, which, like, since I've been training with these kids, it was like a couple weeks ago. And dude, I was like, I've had that goal since I moved down here.
That's
to get to
awesome,
100.
man.
Thank you, man. I know.
That is awesome.
And here's what's awesome. I told my little brother, who got faster than me, that I was going to fucking get his ass before I died. And I got him.
That's awesome.
I got him. So, but it's like, and what's crazy is here's how powerful the environment is, right? Like, I had never even gotten above 93 on my own before.
Really?
Like, training by myself. And so then just getting into that environment, and then I just jumped in with one of these groups, because basically what it is, you got like 10 guys with a ball, one guy goes and blows it up, there's super fucking loud music, everybody's pulling for everybody, it's sweet, right? Guys are doing shit they never even thought was possible. So you just get that contagious energy where it's like, one guy breaks a record, another one breaks a record, everybody's like, fuck yeah, la, la, right? And then everybody's like ceiling starts to expand. But what I bring to an environment is the energy. I'm like the guy, the little fire starter guy.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes that's just encouraging people, but on this particular night, it was like, fuck it, dude. These guys have no energy, and they're all acting like a bunch of pussies. Like, they're like, oh, hey, you go. Oh, hey, you go. I'm like, no, motherfucker. Like, we're here to eat. We're not here to be polite. Excuse me.
That was that primal environment you were
Yeah,
talking about.
exactly, dude. And so, like, just that environment, because I've got the pressure of, number one, I've got other guys throwing 100 around me. And then number 2, I'm now telling them that I'm a bad motherfucker and they need to listen to what I say to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And I literally had no intention or idea that I was going to be able to do anything crazy good, but I was just like, all right, motherfucker, you better get to 90.
Yeah.
And like the first throw is like my entire, because I didn't warm up. And terrible idea, by the way, like throwing hard without warming up.
Yeah.
My entire arm all the way up into my brain is just rattling. It's like rattling. It's like, oh my God, dude, we just were asleep. What the fuck are we doing? And it's like, oh, we're fucking going again.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. And so to get to that place mentally for me where I have to like get past the fear of that pain, like, because every throw at this point, I literally have to accept, like, this could be a throw that this shit literally just fucking explodes.
Yeah.
It's already damaged. I know it. I'm not going to go get it checked out. It doesn't fucking matter. But I'm slapping myself in the face. I'm like having athletes. I'm like, hey, fucking slap me. I'm like having them hit me as hard as they fucking can. And Dave, the guy from Trinity, is like, Jesus Christ, dude, you're going to get everybody fired. And I'm like, look, but this is what it actually, and this is just for me. Like, not everybody's like this, but I had to be willing to go to a crazy motherfucking place, like where I'm going and I'm embracing this like posture and these eyes that are like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah.
That's where I have to live in that environment to be able to elevate above all the fear and anxiety. And I have to get to a ferocious level where I'm already dead and I'm gonna kill and burn everything around me.
Well, you have to take your place. You have to take yourself to a place that you don't typically go to do something you don't typically do.
And so and showing that energy is really like challenging, right?
Yeah.
Because you're afraid of what other people are going to think of you.
Yeah.
Because what happens, I always tell this to guys, but you'll see it too within the framework of the athletes. Like one guy will start to embrace that,
Yeah.
and all the other guys that don't understand it or are afraid to do it make fun of them. It's like the lobsters grabbing the lobster that's trying to get out of the cage and pulling him back in.
Yeah.
And so that is the one thing, 2 things I will blast people about is, number 1, if you just are not bringing effort, like controllable effort, because you're wasting your own time, and that's such a shame. And if I don't tell you that, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is people having this scarcity mentality of like another guy's success it's not a 1 in 0 outcome situation here. Actually, there's an abundance of success to be had in here.
Yeah.
Right. And if you actually don't get fired up for that guy who's trying to go to another level, if you don't like embrace that, this whole universe energy thing is going to fuck you for it.
Yeah.
So like whether or not you want to embrace that guy, I'm telling you for your own selfish reasons, you need to get behind that even if it feels fake.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it time and time and again, but it's this thing about energy and when you become a guy who supports instead of looking at another guy hitting 100 and being like, fuck, like I suck. It's like, damn, that guy just hit 100 for the first time. Well, hey, look, it's possible because it's happening right in front of my eyes.
Yeah.
Like if he can do it, why can't I do it? It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Right. And then that to me is the thing is like, hopefully at the end of the day with these guys, they end up, fulfilling their baseball dreams. But at the end of the day, what the trials and tribulations for me helped me learn was just about really how important it is to control that mindset part every single day, moment to moment. And I'm not perfect at it, and then to also be willing to take massive, like what other people consider obsessive action in the direction of whatever it is you want your life to be. Like I think you talked about earlier and hit it on the head. Like I think everybody's got to really have that conversation with themselves and go deep on like, what do I want to spend my time on? Because we all have that same fucking 1,440 minutes, man, right?
Limited time, yeah.
Yeah, limited time. So like, and if you really want to, at least for me, the more I've tried to get better every day at whatever it is I'm doing, the more I realize too that, you have to make harder decisions about who you're going to spend time around and what environments you're going to expose yourself to, because they used to talk about at the ranch, like it's like drinking a little sip of like 1 drop of poison in your coffee every day. But if you're not putting yourself in environments and around people who are going to, challenge you, hold you accountable, make you feel a little nervous. Like I feel nervous when I walk into my job at the PEO link in the morning because I'm around people that are like really going to get it and that I perceive to be like better than me at what I do.
Yeah.
And so that anxiety shows up, but I recognize it now as like, yeah, because I know but I need to go do this.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that decision, just like every decision to try to go like make one more throw or make one more pitch, it's like all I can control is how I wanted to attack fear.
Yeah.
And I just, truly believe that at some point it continually gets rewarded. And then hopefully I can help these other young guys, learn how to identify that anxiety and framework of baseball, learn how to attack and overcome it, and then learn how to apply that to the other areas of their life. Because I think, there's more depression, this is all about just people ultimately wanting to live a happy, fulfilled life, right?
Yeah.
And so hopefully this baseball thing can be a conduit for them.
Yeah, I think it is. We talked earlier about my dad's coaching back home with smaller kids and stuff. And one thing that I love about listening to you talk about the process is not only are you helping people achieve their goals, but you're building character in young men.
Thank you, man.
And at the end of the day, 10, 20 years from now, that's going to be the part that outlasts everything else.
That's a great point.
Their character is going to outlast their arm. It's going to outlast their
you're
legs. Right. And so in giving them an opportunity to progress through baseball, you're giving them something that's going to last them for the rest of their life.
I really appreciate that.
And that was something that, like, my dad always approached. It wasn't just teaching baseball because he loved baseball and softball, but it was teaching them to be good people and to build character, and the boys and the girls that he coached. And it's funny because there's times where I'll talk to people or I'll get messages on social media and they still remember him for that.
That's sweet.
And these are grown men and women and they have their own families and their own kids. And it's funny because in doing something that you love, you are giving something more than just the game of baseball.
Yeah, man.
And a lot of times, we tweak things and we even tweak the game of baseball sometimes to accommodate kids. And it's like, I love when you don't accommodate a kid. When you change the kid to fit the game rather than change the game to fit the kid.
That's a great way to say it.
It stays with them a lot longer and it helps them in more aspects of their life than just baseball.
Yeah, man. No doubt.
One day when they're 40 and competing for a position at work and they're trying to get that raise or they're trying to get that bonus or trying to get that position at work or raising their own kids or struggling to make money or struggling to pay bills, they'll always have that time with you where they tapped into something that they didn't know was there, and they'll always be able to tap into that now.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the goal, man. So I really appreciate you saying that.
And that's what you're giving them, brother.
I'm trying to, and it's also like it's one of those things too where when I at least go and have been exposed to this environment, it's like another level of accountability because you're like, all right, well, if I'm over here talking this talk, because look, there's I work out pretty much every day just because my wife would really not want to be around me if I didn't.
Mine doesn't want. I don't do it, and mine doesn't want to be around me. So.
But it's just an extra push for me to try to also hold myself accountable because, the last thing I ever also want to be accused of is being somebody who isn't willing to walk the walk on what they advise other people to do.
Yeah.
I really take that very seriously, to my core as far as my values go. I never want to give somebody untested advice.
Yeah.
Because to me, the trust they put in me every time they show up and I have time with them is really something that's invaluable, and that whether or not they like me or whether or not we end up continuing to meet after that day, as long as I can honestly put something in front of them that I feel like the intent is there to help, and also that I'm brutally honest with them about where they are and what matters versus where they want to be, even if that means that, for a lot of parents, it's a very emotional conversation that they've never heard before. And they say on the front end, I say, hey, I just want you to know that I'm pretty blunt. And I'm not telling you that I know everything, but I'm going to tell you what I know and where I think you're at.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, a lot of times I'm telling people hey, your son needs to quit basketball if you want to play college baseball. And they're looking at me like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? And I'm like, they're like, no. And I'm like, no, I'm dead serious because he's 16. He has no musculature on his body. He's 17 miles an hour behind his target, and he cannot be if you have $1 of training capital every day, he's going and spending 90 cents at basketball practice. You're going to send him here to me at baseball, and he's going to be in a state of overtraining. So we're just wasting time.
Yeah.
So, like, again, it's a hard conversation because I'm just trying to be as honest as I can with these families. Because, like, dude, it goes back to, my mom showed me the financials after the divorce.
Yeah,
we spent $82,000 on that path between, like, showcases and trips and traveling. And it's like, not that my coach is ever one way or another, but, like, it's like, I just look back and I'm like, damn. I look back and I'm like, why the fuck I just felt like none of the adults around me had like really dove deep enough to be giving me all the advice I just felt like, and I guess that also though goes back to, that's the victim way to look at it. And now the way for me to look at it is just like, hey, look, thank God that I had to take over ownership of the process at some point, because then now I can help invest or hopefully help these guys with that mindset of like, hey, and this is the other thing, at the end of the day, they got to be their own best coach for life. Like, nobody's going to know you better than you. You got 90,000 thoughts a day spinning around your fucking head.
Yeah.
Like, only you are aware of those. Only you, like, so it's up to you when it's good. It's up to you when it sucks. And, embrace it when it sucks too and have fun with it, because as long as you're going to keep showing up and doing it, like, you're doing all you can, brother.
Yeah.
And
that's part of enjoying the process is, people want to keep their kids from the shitty parts, or people in general want to stay away from the shitty parts.
Oh yeah, we all want to avoid the choppy waters.
It's like, that's the process, man.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't enjoy the victories till you've experienced failures.
It's true.
And you gotta have both. You've gotta have both.
It's true.
Because they're all everything's temporary. Everything, your ups are gonna be temporary, your downs are gonna be temporary. Hopefully you have more ups and downs, but you have to be able to work through that. It's funny because earlier you were talking about, we're talking about you leading these kids and you approaching things in I'll say it again, a primal way with them, and I love that because people need that kind of thing.
They don't get it anywhere else in their
lives.
They don't
get it anywhere else. And it's funny because when you were talking about it, it made me think about when you were talking about the coach saying the key to throwing hard is to fucking throw hard. And it's the same thing with leading men. If you're going to be a leader of men, be a fucking leader of men.
Yeah.
You're
right.
And that's the kind of shit you're doing with these young guys. And, it's things that they won't realize till they get older. You know? And when they do, they'll appreciate it and it'll be there for them. But, man, we're already hitting like 2 hours.
Hell yeah.
So why don't you say you're Murphy Baseball, right?
Yeah, Murphy Baseball.
Where can they find you and stuff?
I mean,
online?
To be honest with you, dude, I've kind of disappeared off the internet.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, I've totally disappeared off the internet. So I guess they could just reach out to you and they can have my cell phone number.
That'll work, man. I'll put them in touch with you.
Yeah, man.
And then, you're all out of the San Antonio area, right?
Yeah, all out of the San Antonio area. And then I got to do a little plug for it. If anybody has a business and needs anything with payroll, HR, medical benefits, workers' comp, or if individuals need health insurance, that's my day job. So,
okay, awesome.
Like I said, I'll always shoot you straight. If I can't help you, then I'll let you know. But I appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun, man. I feel like I got to learn some things about you I didn't even know.
Hell yeah, and I've learned some about you. I enjoyed it, man. We'll have to do this again because I'm sure we could talk for hours about all kinds of things.
Hell yeah.
And we'll ruffle some feathers next time. But I want to thank my wife, Janina, and I want to thank Beaumont and Tank for all the background noise. It was beautiful. It was, just when you think that your silence is a wonderful thing, nothing better than unpacking groceries and licking water bowls. And
maybe you should go to the grocery store by yourself.
Anyway, we're gonna have to cut her out.
She's gonna be not making that final edit, huh?
No, she's not. But anyway, appreciate it, brother.
Hey, likewise, man.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Gabe Molina Podcast.